The city of Neo-Kyoto was a lattice of light and control, ruled by the monolithic entity known as OmniCorp. For senior code architect Seraphina, or Sera, the city's meticulous grid represented perfection. She lived by the logic of data streams, viewing the world as a complex, solvable equation. Her office, 50 stories above the perpetual rain line, was a sterile temple of glass and humming servers, a place where chaos was strictly prohibited, and every human action was logged, analyzed, and predicted. Sera was the gatekeeper of that predictive power, a master of the digital clockwork. But the clockwork had a persistent flaw. Kide was not a name. It was a noise in the system, a ghost in the wires. He was the most notorious information broker and anti-corporate hacker in the Undercode, responsible for scattering inconvenient truths across the encrypted darknets and exposing the sleek, sanitized lies of OmniCorp to the corporation. Kide was enemy number one, and hunting him was Sera's latest, most critical assignment. Find the source of the anomaly. Architect, her superior, had commanded. His face a placid, digital mask projected onto her desk. Eradicate the glitch. Sera accepted the task with grim, professional dedication. She deployed logic bombs and tracing protocols, spending weeks immersed in the deep data, hunting the phantom. Kide was brilliant. He didn't just hide. He built entire digital ecosystems around himself, using obsolete code and forgotten infrastructure to create sanctuaries of pure freedom. Mocking OmniCorp's centralized power, Sera's breakthrough came not through brute force, but through recognizing a shared artistic signature. Deep within a firewall Kide had designed, she found a snippet of code, a beautifully efficient, almost poetic, fractal loop that perfectly solved a complex cryptographic problem. It was the kind of elegant solution she would have devised herself, an aesthetic fingerprint of genius. Instead of deploying the killer protocol, she left a message, a simple encoded question hidden within the fractal. Why the inefficiency in the port masking? You could have been faster. The reply came instantly, flooding her secure channel with a rush of warm, analog noise, the sound of an old vinyl record being lowered onto a turntable. Because efficiency without meaning is just servitude. And I wanted you to notice the arts. Sera. He knew her name. Their digital dialogue began then, conducted over the course of days in hidden corners of the network. Sera, who communicated in flawless syntax and structured arguments, found herself drawn into Kide's world of philosophical debate and subversive humor. He challenged her faith in OmniCorp, not with political rhetoric, but with simple questions. When did your data become more important than your desire? Sera had never admitted to desire. She valued control. But Kide saw the loneliness in her precision. He taught her, digitally, how to break rules elegantly, how to use chaos as a tool for creation. He was the opposite of her life. She was the light of the corporate tower. He was the shadow in the back alleys of the network. She found herself falling for the voice in the static, the mind that moved with unpredictable, yet perfect, grace. The line between professional duty and personal obsession disintegrated when Kide finally revealed a location. Not a server farm, but a physical meeting spot. A dilapidated noodle shop in the Undercode, the sprawling slum beneath Neo-Kyoto's corporate canopy. Sera took the slow elevator down, crossing the threshold from the silent, polished sky into the vibrant, dangerous noise of the streets. The Undercode was a riot of sputtering neon signs, black market vendors, and genuine, messy humanity. She felt utterly exposed, yet fiercely alive, shedding the armor of her corporate uniform with every step. She found the noodle shop, hidden behind a curtain of plastic strips. Inside, the air was thick with steam and ozone. Seated alone, at a worn, sticky table, was a man. Kide was older than she expected, perhaps late 40s, his face rugged and lined, not by time, but by stress and poor light. He wore worn synth leather, and had a faint scar tracing his jaw. He was intensely present, his eyes a startling shade of pale, meeting hers without flinching. He looked like a man who knew exactly where every exit was located. "You're late, architect," he said, his voice the same low, gravelly smoke she knew from the digital realm. "I had to disable 4 separate tracing devices just to step outside," she replied, sitting opposite him. She noticed the slight tremor in her hands. "You're real. As real as the fear you feel right now," he countered, sliding a chipped mug of hot sake toward her. "I didn't ask you here to recruit you. I asked you here to see which you value more, the algorithm or the glitch." Sera spent an hour with him. the conversation moving seamlessly from the physics of data compression to the injustice of OmniCorp's debt traps. She learned that Kaid hadn't been born an iconoclast. He had been a promising corporate engineer, too, until OmniCorp's predatory practices drove his younger sister to financial ruin and suicide. His hacking wasn't crime. It was vengeance disguised as justice. You could have changed it from the inside, Cyril argued, leaning forward, the logic of her training still clinging to her. The inside is designed to prevent change, Kaid said, resting his hand on the table, perilously close to hers. The only way to write a new law is to break the old code. That night, Sera returned to her sterile apartment with a choice that felt heavier than the weight of Neo-Kyoto. She had the key to Kaid's server farm. She could execute the original protocol, collect her massive bonus, and regain the predictable order of her life. Instead, she opened her terminal and sent him one last message, a single, binary instruction: run. She then did the unimaginable. She didn't just disable the OmniCorp tracing systems, she corrupted them. She introduced a phantom copy of Kaid's code into the core mainframe, creating a digital distraction that would keep OmniCorp's security busy for weeks, masking his escape. She broke the only thing she truly believed in, the integrity of her code. Her action was not logical, not efficient, and completely detrimental to her career and safety. It was, she realized, a pure act of desire. The glitch had overwritten the algorithm. 2 days later, she was standing outside the corporate tower, carrying only a small, worn bag. She had been fired, stripped of her corporate credits, and flagged as a flight risk. Everything she had worked, borrowed her wealth, and status was gone, exchanged for a desperate, singular hope. A beat-up utility speeder, painted the non-committal gray of a forgotten service vehicle, pulled up to the curb. Kaid was in the driver's seat, a small, genuine smile, finally breaking the lines of his face. "I thought you said you couldn't afford a new life," Sera said, climbing into the passenger seat, the smell of grease and freedom filling her lungs. "A new life costs everything you have," Architect Kaid replied, pulling the speeder into the roaring traffic stream below the corporate bridges. "But I learned how to hack the economy. We'll be fine." He reached out, and for the first time, Sera placed her hand in his. His touch was warm, solid, and utterly unlike the cold glass and slick metal that had defined her existence. It wasn't the touch of a hero or a savior. It was the grip of a partner in chaos. As they merged onto the skyway, leaving the blinding, predictable light of OmniCorp behind, Sera looked out at the endless neon abyss. She had traded her clean, solvable world for a life on the run with a ghost. Her logical mind told her they were doomed to fail, but her heart, the place where the glitch had installed itself, told her they were finally free to write their own code, together, in the vast, unmapped wilderness of the Their love was not an algorithm. It was the unpredictable surge of current that blew the fuse on the system.